All right. Looks like things have slowed down as far as people entering the room. Thanks everybody for joining us. Um, I know we were talking to Jeff was talking to us here before the session about ticks being all over the place, and I can attest to that as well. I had the first tick of the year on myself just in my backyard last month, about the middle of the month. So they were getting cranked up nice and early. It happened to be a deer tick as well. Um, we are fortunate to have with us today Phurchhoki Sherpa. Phurchhoki is the medical entomology program coordinator here in the Department of Entomology at Purdue. And I have asked her to provide us a nice overview of tick identification, prevention, and management with the hopes that this will help you in your extension programming and potentially answering questions that you're probably likely to get inundated with here soon. So, Choki, uh, thanks for joining us, and I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you. I know it's a short presentation, so I've tried to make sure that I get as much as possible, but that also means that I can't get too much in depth. So if we have time at the end, I will take questions from any and all of you. So just for today's presentation, by the end of it, what I'm hoping to have answered is some of the questions such as how to ID ticks or how to protect yourself or your pets from tick bites and how to reduce tick habitats around your property in a residential area, and also what if I find a tick embedded in me, how do I properly remove it? So I have divided my presentation into three main sections. I'll begin with talking about common ticks in Indiana, the diseases and likely habitats associated with them, and mostly dive into a little bit about the guides and also resources for identifying ticks, if and when you find one. And we'll move on to the tick bite prevention and proper tick removal methods, and then end with treatments that are currently available for tick-borne diseases in the U.S. So jumping into the first section, common ticks in Indiana, their diseases and identification. So there are more than 850 different species of ticks globally. In the US, we have about 90 of those. And when it comes to Indiana, we have six hard tick species that are of public health relevance, as in human diseases. And I say hard ticks because there are soft ticks as well, which I'm not covering today. But if we have time, I can talk a little bit about them later. Of the six hard ticks, deer tick, American dog tick, going from left to right. Deer tick, American dog tick, and Lone Star ticks are established and known vectors of human diseases. That means they can transmit human diseases. The Gulf Coast tick here is known to transmit something called a spotted fever rickettsiosis, which is very similar to Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which is transmitted by the American dog tick. Um, and I can talk about that a little bit later too. And here, brown dog tick and Asian longhorn tick, I have them boxed in because I'm putting them as a watch out species or watch out ticks for human diseases. Um, so brown dog tick is primarily associated with kennels and houses, and it transmits uh, plenty of diseases in dogs. So for pet owners, this tick is a big nuisance and something that one wants to know about. However, when it comes to human diseases, in Indiana, we don't have any human disease cases related to this tick. However, in the southwest US, primarily in Arizona, this tick has been recently known to transmit Rocky Mountain spotted fever in humans. So that's a big deal, and we should be on the watch out look out for these here in Indiana as well. And the other one is Asian longhorn tick. This is the newest tick in the state. It's only been found in a couple of counties in the southern part of the state so far. Um, in the US, it's not known to transmit any human diseases, but in Virginia, they have found that this tick can transmit theileriosis, which is a parasitic disease in cattle. So the likelihood of this being an economic damage from the agricultural pest wise might be higher than being a human disease pest, in my opinion, but we'll see in a few years. So here are other ticks, not the brown dog tick and the Asian longhorn tick, but the other ones that we have with their pictures. All these pictures are female ticks because they are distinctive to ID and differentiate. So I haven't added males, which look totally different. So anyways, there are these ticks with their pictures, and below them is the list of the names of diseases or allergies that they can transmit. And within the parentheses are color-coded types of diseases those are, or allergies those are. So in the black, in parentheses, everything is bacterial diseases. In yellow is the parasitic disease, and in red is viral disease. And in blue here are the allergies. So as you can see from the list here, if we're just considering the what's in quotes diseases, deer tick or the black-legged tick is most prolific. However, if we add in the allergies, then Lone Star tick competes with the deer tick. Um, and Lyme disease is the most common and prevalent tick-borne disease in Indiana. We have the highest number of cases of Lyme disease among all the tick-borne diseases in the state every year. And if you look at the type of diseases, we mostly have bacterial tick-borne diseases in the state. Deer tick is also capable of transmitting something called babesiosis, which is a parasitic disease. And it can also transmit Powassan virus, which is a viral pathogen. And Lone Star tick can transmit bacterial diseases like ehrlichiosis, tularemia, plus the Heartland and Bourbon viruses, which are viral pathogens, and alpha-gal, which is the red meat allergy. If you have seen the news recently, we have had the first human death related to alpha-gal last year. I think at the end of last year. And Lone Star tick can also transmit another allergy called Istara in short, which stands for Southern Tick Associated Rash Illness. It's a mouthful, so we just call it Istara. And American dog tick is the other most common one. Common tick, it transmits tularemia and Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Those are bacterial. And it can also transmit something called tick paralysis, or it can cause tick paralysis. And tick paralysis is neither allergy nor disease. It's a neurotoxin. Apparently, when a tick attaches, it can produce neurotoxin and it can cause the paralysis. And if the tick is removed, that paralysis goes away in most cases. I haven't known anybody having this case, so I just know of it in a secondary knowledge. And Gulf Coast tick here is grayed out because, like I mentioned, it can transmit a spotted fever rickettsiosis, which can be confused with, like diagnostically confused with Rocky Mountain spotted fever because the pathogen are sister species. And so in Indiana, the State Department of Health currently report both of them together as a spotted fever group. And all of the tick-borne diseases that we have are reportable in Indiana. That means the doctors and I think the labs are required to report them. And most of the diseases are reportable within one business day. However, tularemia needs to be reported immediately as soon as the case is suspected or diagnosed. And the reason is because, in addition to it being a tick-borne disease, it can also be transmitted through soil, water, or worse, it can be aerosolized, and it is highly infectious even in the lowest numbers. One thing that's not reportable in Indiana is the allergies. So alpha-gal, red meat allergy, people are suspecting that there's more cases than uh, people know of, but we do not know how many because they are not reportable. Knowing that different species of ticks transmit different diseases and there can be different treatments for those diseases, correct identification is very important. And also identifying the life stages of ticks is important because, for example, the larval tick, which has just emerged from eggs, if that feeds on you, the likelihood of that larvae being infected with diseases is a lot lower than if you are bit by, say, nymph or adults, which could have fed on other animals before it and picked up pathogens that way. And this picture is just FYI here, although ticks are arachnids like the spiders, and we're told, oh, arachnids all have 8 legs. The larvae of ticks only have 6 legs. When they molt into nymphs and adults is when they have 8 legs. And so for the next few slides, I'm going to show you what features we look at when we ID ticks. The first one we look at is the scutum, which is the back on their back, the shield. Here on the left picture, you can see the shield or the scutum. It helps in addition to helping us ID down to genus or species. It can also help us ID either if it is a male or a female. Uh, they look distinctly different looking at the scutum. And scutum also rarely changes when they feed. So when the tick is a giant bulbous thing that you can't see anything else, but the little head at the bottom, scutum helps, like these pictures here. When we use the scutum, but if we can't ID them using just the scutum, what we do is we look at something called basis capitulum. Look at this, the red circles here. That's the base of the mouth parts and base of the mouth parts that attaches to the body. So different genuses have different basis capitulum shape. So we look at that. And so it's all good when the ticks look different, like deer tick or American dog tick. They're totally different. They look totally different genus altogether. But what if they look very similar, like in the case of American dog tick to the left here and the Gulf Coast tick to the right here? If you're just looking at the scutum, they look very similar. So in these cases, in addition to looking at the scutum and basis capitulum, we also look at the length of the mouth parts here. So the American dog tick have shorter mouth parts than the Gulf Coast ticks. And more tricky to ID are the immatures. If we find immatures in the field, it's hard. In addition to looking at all the features I mentioned earlier, we might also have to look at something called their festoons. Festoons are these edges here, and we basically look at how many boxes, these little teeny tiny boxes, are there on the festoons, and plus many different features that are on the bottom part of their body. Sometimes I have had to count the number of little dentations on the mouth parts, like little barbed wire. They're teeny tiny, and you have to count them. So with those, I mean, you are always welcome to, if you get any questions from the public or tick samples, you're welcome to try identifying ticks, and we can provide a tick ID card. But Tick Encounter, which I have used a lot of pictures from, which is run from the University of Rhode Island, also has a really good resource that one can use. And if you don't want to ID yourself and want somebody else to ID, I can always do it. You're welcome to mail in. Or you can ask the public to mail in their tick samples. Again, frozen in Ziploc bags. You can mail it to this address here, or if you want, you can also take good pictures of the head, as you can see from top down. I need the head and top of the body, very important. And you can email it to me, and I can always ID it for you. And at Purdue, we also have Plant and Pest Diagnostic Lab. They can ID it for you too, but there, I think they charge a little bit of money. And if you don't want to deal with anybody and just want to put it on your phone, then you can also use apps like iNaturalist or the Tick app. So moving on to the control and management of ticks. When it comes to control of ticks or prevention of the tick bites, prevention is always the cure. We'll start from the how to avoid tick habitats in on my property, and that is pretty. It can be pretty extensive and expensive, but it is a good source management. That means it is a really good prevention method. So this picture is from a tick management handbook written by one of the tick experts in the nation. And what this picture shows is basically this is giving you the if you're in the wooded areas, basically. If you have wood piles, always move it away from the house and create this wood chip barrier from the wooded areas to your residential area. And if you're in historically agricultural areas, I have noticed that there are stone walls, and those can be good habitats for white-footed mice and other rodents which bring in ticks. So creating that tick barrier, which using wood chips is recommended right now, that's very important. And if you have a garden, then definitely grow deer-resistant plants, or if you want to grow other plants, put a fence around. And then the other daily thing that you can do, or which is more less expensive, is implementing personal protection by using EPA-approved repellents. Always look at the active ingredients like DEET, picaridin, IR, 3535 catnip oil, or oil of lemon eucalyptus. So there are DEET. I have seen there are a lot of products containing DEET, and that does work, and I use that myself too. And the other thing is wear light colored clothing, long sleeve shirts and long pants when possible, and tuck the shirt in the pants and tuck your pant legs in the socks. Light colored clothing, not because ticks don't like them, but because it gives you a higher chance to see the ticks when they're on you. And staying on the trails for sure. And if anybody wants, you can also buy permethrin in the market to treat your outdoor clothing. And when it comes to pets, especially dogs, staying on trail is, of course, a good advice, but they don't know how to read the signs and they love to frolic around. So, in that case, I think the best way to prevent ticks and tick-borne diseases on them is to use uh, the medications and treatments, flea and tick meds that are available in the market. I'm sorry, I can't give you the product recommendations, but I think if you talk to your vets, they will know your pet better than I do, and also they would know which products are good and effective in the field. So I would recommend talking to your vets when it comes to your pets. And the other personal protection method that I recommend is the tick check. Always, whenever you come in from outdoor activities, always do tick check on you and your pets. If the pet has flea and tick, usually that takes care of the tick, so it will kill them. But also do a tick check for sure. And the spots where you want to check for ticks is very similar on us and our pets. Always check at places where it's dark and can be warm, where ticks love to hide. And even with all the preventative measures that you take, if a tick attaches to you, always use a proper method. There are online online submissions, online things that talk about using Vaseline or nail polish or oh, just burn it with matchstick. Please don't do any of those because what that does is it agitates the ticks, and when they are agitated, they regurgitate. That means the pathogens are in their saliva, and it increases the chances of you getting the pathogen, even if you hadn't got it then. So the proper way is to use fine tip tweezers, or there are tick removal kits out in the commercially available in the markets that you can use as well. So get as close to the skin as possible and move the ticks straight up with like a steady hold. And if you need help while doing that, CDC also has this tick bot that you can answer a couple of questions, and it will tell you what the tick might be and how to remove it and what to do next. So if you had the tick attached and you're worried about maybe the likelihood of getting tick-borne disease, or if you're diagnosed with tick-borne diseases, what treatments are currently available? Thankfully, for the most tick-borne diseases that we have in our area, we do have treatments if they're caught early. So it is very important to pay attention to signs and symptoms if and when you know that you have gotten bit by a tick. So the ones in the blue are the ones that we have the treatments for, and as you can see, they are mostly bacterial plus parasitic. Um, Disease, tick-borne disease. So talk to your doctor as soon as you know you have had a tick bite. And we don't have treatments so far for viral pathogens, and allergies are mostly, I think, dietary restrictions. And as I've found out with the alpha-gal allergies, reading about it, that um, it is really hard to control for it. The alpha-gal allergy can be triggered by uh, a lot of um, mammal meat and other mammal products, and it's in almost everything. So it's very important to prevent tick bite to begin with. So with that, I can take any questions you may have, and I'm sorry if I was rushed. I was trying to keep it within the time limit. Thank you.
Thanks, Choki. That's great. Sorry you have plenty of time. I know I asked you to get through quite a bit of information there in 15 minutes, but thanks. That was a great. You did a great job there. Before we open the to questions to the floor, I have a couple here that I want to read to you from the chat.
Sounds good.
Um, Nikki Witkowski asks, she says she gets a lot of people wanting to get ticks identified. So you've shared some information there in that regard. She wants to know if they could share your Tick Insider site or the resources there. And she says that sometimes that's followed up with a question about can you test to see if the tick had any diseases like Lyme disease or alpha-gal? Can you take both of those questions on?
Tick ID wise, yes, definitely. You can send me. Anyone can send me tick samples. Like I said, if they are gonna send me a tick sample itself, please ask them to put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them in the freezer, not in the fridge, because in the fridge they can be alive for a while. Um, so put them in the freezer, and when they're dead, they can ship it to me, mail it, and I will email them. So the information I need from them is their contact information, email or their phone number, so that I can give them a call back or email them with the information that's related to the tick that they found. And tick testing wise, we do not test ticks here. Um, and likely a lot of I mean, if they want, there might be their doctors might know a lab that will test for ticks. But what I recommend people is, I mean, wait for signs and symptoms. You will see fever, all these like common cold kind of symptoms, fever, rash. Rash doesn't always look so for Lyme disease, if you're specifically worried about Lyme disease rash, we know that bullseye rash. It's not always like that in everybody, so it's important to know that. So if people see any kind of rash, that's not a bullseye rash, then they should go and see a doctor as well. But testing wise, we don't do it here.
Does the state health department do that?
I do not know if they test a single tick.
Okay.
I know State Department of Health, they have entomologists who go out and collect ticks, and I think they might what is called pool multiple ticks in a vial and then do a test that way, so that they know where the pathogen might be in tick populations. But I don't know if they take the public's samples to do testing.
Okay, that's something we'll probably have to follow up on. Um, Thanks. Next question here is from Jeff Burbrink. He said Indiana used to have a place to send ticks for ID. Well, okay, here's the same question. Lab was at Ball State. I think their funding was cut. Is there another place that you know of? Sounds like we're not sure about that.
Mm. The testing, yeah, testing lab, I do not know. But yeah, tick sample wise, IDing, if it's just IDing, I volunteer myself, so definitely send it.
Okay. I think Jeff, in answer to your question, that might be something we just have to follow up directly with the state Department of Health about and see if they're willing to do that kind of testing. I can do the homework up for us on that too and push that information out.
Yeah, Lee Green is the senior entomologist there. He's super nice.
Yeah.
And so I bet he would answer your questions. And hopefully that they take samples, but the likelihood of them taking samples from the public, I see pretty low.
Yeah, seems like it
Likely
might
of the
get
budget.
overwhelmed pretty
Yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Nikki has a question here again. Is it still true overall that they don't officially bite down for almost 24 hours? They cement themselves down first? What do you make of that question?
Yep. You have it. I don't know about 24 hours. I don't think there's a time on how long they take to what I call like quest look for the perfect spot for them to bite on. It might vary. But they do move around to find that perfect area where they can bite down, and the cement information is correct. So what they do is, ticks have this mouth part that has opposite the barbed wire, like this. The mouth part goes down, and barbed wires, like this, multiple barbed wires. And what they do is they have a little scissor thing they cut down first, and then they put that barbed wire mouth part. What that helps with is to keep themselves attached to the flesh, and in addition to that barbed wire holding them in place, they also produce something called cement, basically a white goo around that will help them stay stuck because they need to feed for days to fully engorge, to be able to molt properly. So, all that information, so sometimes people freak out when they pull out their tick and they see this white skin tag-like thing on their mouth part. They're like, "Oh my God, does this mean this was infected?" And that's likely the cement that came out there in with their mouth part.
Okay. So Jeff also comments both times in March when their dog brought home ticks, 40 the first time, 26 the second time. We
Mhm.
found them embedded in their feet between their pads. And he makes a comment that it can be pretty difficult to dig them out of those kind of spots. Also requires some pretty serious checking, right, to find them there.
The thing is, those pads, they have that opening, perfect opening, right? Without the fur. So I bet they prefer that very much. And their ears can be a really good spot too, wherever ticks can get easily, and find that blood source. I think they will go for that first.
Yeah, they're nice and snug in between those pads as well. So,
Yes.
um, next question is from Michelle Jones. Are you going to update the Tick Insider's website? Looks like the last news was 2021.
Yeah, Tick Insider's project was funded before I even got here. I got here in 2022, and the funding has run out. It ran out before I got here, and I have continued taking the tick samples because I enjoy first IDing the ticks, just getting samples from people and getting the chance to talk to people. And I also am responsible for extension and outreach, so I do it. But the Tick Insider project itself has ended. So yeah, uh, I do not know what can be updated on there. So I would recommend if you have any questions or if you need to look up information about ticks, then follow our other medical entomology website rather than the Tick Insider. Tick Insider does have some information that could be relevant for like in general, but that project is done.
Yeah, this is always the issue with, federally funded projects. The funding comes in, it's there for a few years, sometimes just two, sometimes 3 years or even longer. But then after that, the grant is over and it's hard to support those kind of efforts to sustain them. So yeah, it's just sort of the way the game is played, unfortunately. Um, okay, so I'd like to open the floor to questions if there are any additional questions that are tick related while we have Choki here with us.
And also, if you think of something that you later on, then definitely email. Feel free to email me. I've given you my email
Yeah, thanks for
address,
that.
and maybe Doug can share that too with the group.
Sure. Thanks, Choki. Okay. So Jeff asked a question. When I had Lyme disease rash in November, the doctor and website said you rarely get the bacteria unless the tick is attached for 24 hours or more. I had to take a course of doxycycline. Yeah, pretty standard treatment. No further symptoms. And I think that's what they'll give pets that are infected with Lyme disease too. That's what they gave my dog when he got Lyme disease. Um,
Yeah, Lyme disease is, as I showed, it's a bacterial pathogen. So antibiotics, right? There are certain couple of antibiotics that are used in general, like all these bacterial tick-borne diseases. So your Lyme disease and rash wise, yeah, 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours attachment is the time required to transmit Lyme disease bacteria as of the research and studies so far. But what I will tell people is don't get complacent just knowing that information for Lyme disease because uh, as soon as you can remove the tick, the faster you can, the better it is, because there are other pathogens that can be transmitted earlier than 24 hours. So I don't want to scare people here just by saying, giving the data on some of the faster ones. But yeah, so um, I would say, yeah, remove it. Always do tick checks and do the preventative measures that I talked about when you are out and about.
Let me just follow up. I know Choki covered this in her presentation about sort of the different layers of protection for pets. I'm going to share my screen real quick and just show you some quick information here. Here are some common tick preventive products for pets. I think typically people are either using the Simparica Trio or Frontline. Frontline, I believe the active ingredient is fipronil. This is a topical, so it's something that's applied to the skin of the pet as either a strip down the back or in different spots and locations down the back, and then that material disperses over the skin in the oils of the skin and does provide protection. Um, I personally have used and still use the Simparica Trio for our dogs. And I can tell you that this is This is sort of the next generation of chemistries. It's an oral treatment that you give the dog once a month. Um, and it has several different active ingredients in it. This Sorilaner, Mixodectin, and Pyrantel. And a few years ago, we got tick bombed pretty badly when we were down by Lake Monroe, south of Bloomington. And the dog was just absolutely covered in nymphs, right? Or larvae. I'm not sure. I didn't take a close enough look. But the next day, there were hundreds of them attached to the dog where his thin skin was thin. The next day, every single one of them was dead um, from feeding on the dog and acquiring a dose of this active ingredients. So these two things, I know they work, they just work differently. And there are others out there. I think, Choki, tell me if you agree with this. My advice would be, check with your veterinarian, see what they recommend. And it's sometimes dogs are sensitive, different pets are sensitive to these different active ingredients. So every dog may react differently. They are insecticides, right? So a lot of dogs may have some neurological symptoms in relation to taking a dose of these, but check with your vet, see what kind of recommendations they're willing to provide.
And also depending on the size of your pets too, I guess the doses will vary. And yeah, product wise, you mentioned frontline is fipronil. There's something out in the field called tick tubes that's using fipronil treated cotton balls, and so I think it's still in the research phase, or there are products available for the. I don't know if the product is available for the general public's use, but tick tubes, they basically have the fipronil treated cotton balls, and what the idea behind it is the white-footed mice, especially and other rodents, will come and take the cotton balls to make their nests, or they will nest in the tubes themselves, and then that will treat the mice and rodents when they're sleeping in the cotton balls, and that's how you control the tick population. You're muted.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, and that's been used in other scenarios too. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and
Um,
there's something called four poster too for used for deer, and I think they use permethrin for that, but don't quote me on that. The what chemical they use, but the idea is to have these roller like posters with a corn as a bait, basically a corn feeding station, and then there are roller thing those the rollers that use for painting. And they are treated with a chemical. And when the deer come in to feed, they basically roll against the treated rolls, and that's how you control the ticks on their faces and necks.
so it applies the treatment directly to the
Yeah.
other hosts.
Yes.
Yeah. Ashley Adair has a question. Why does it take so long to transmit the Lyme disease pathogen? We talked
So
about 24 hours.
yeah, the pathogens usually are depends on where the pathogens are located in the ticks themselves. When the ticks are infected, so Lyme disease, they will be in the midgut, their abdomen. And when they feed, they will have to slowly come up. The pathogen will slowly have to come up to the and mix in with the saliva and feed. So as we talked about already, it takes time for them to find a site to bite and feed, and then after that, it takes time for them to uh, really feed and that get the feeding going. And I think I don't know why it is, but maybe the spirochetes need a cue of like, okay, there's this time, the temperature, I don't know, the feeding, the pressure, I don't know what it triggers, but yeah, it takes time for the spirochetes to move from the midgut to the salivary glands and down um, to the host.
Yeah, Ashley, I agree. It is fascinating and horrifying at the same time, if you want to think
Yeah,
about it that way.
ticks are
Um,
really creepy.
I have a quick question, and please, everybody, feel free to just to jump in here. But so, am I correct that the not the larvae, but the nymphs are typically capable of transmitting any of these diseases, or is it unknown exactly how the dynamics work depending on the tick and depending on the disease? Um, what are your thoughts on that, Shoki?
I think depending on the disease, I am not certain with the if there's research. There's got to be I can't think of it on the top of my head, but some diseases can be transmitted vertically. What that means is from the mother to the baby. So when the eggs are laid, it can be infected and the larvae can be infected, but it doesn't happen with all the diseases. Other diseases, what happens is the larvae will have to feed on a host. Let's say of all the hosts it comes to, it has to come and feed on an infected host, and the then it will pick up the infection from there, and then when it molts, it can carry on the pathogen to the nymphal stage. So now nymph that has just molted, it needs to feed again to molt into adult stage. So when it feeds to that new host, it can transmit that pathogen. So there's a lot of barriers into transmission, acquiring and also transmitting. So not all the ticks out in the wild are gonna be infected. So I tell people not to, I know having the data and knowing that you can get tick-borne diseases is great, but not every tick is going to be infected. So there's a lot that has to come into play for that infection and transmission and um, everything to happen in place. So yeah,
Yeah, a lot of biological and physical barriers, right,
yes,
to overcome.
yeah.
Um, Jeff, just out of curiosity, you mentioned here that you find dead ticks on the dogs after use of the product pretty quickly. Um, what product did you use with your dogs when, or do you use with your dogs?
Mine was Next Guard.
Okay. And do you know the active ingredient in that?
I believe that has more than one.
Okay. And it's an oral or is it a topical?
Oral.
All right. So there's another product possibility.
Next Guard Plus is also good for heartworm and roundworm and fleas and ticks. So it's got multiple purposes there.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend that these orals are, they have a mix of active ingredients targeting different potential problems, worms, heartworms, you say, ticks, fleas, etc. Um, John Oryx says he's treated his clothing with permethrin, and that seems to work pretty well. Yeah, I'll agree with that. We go to Michigan a couple, 3 times a year, and ticks are bad up there. Yeah. John, do you see mostly deer ticks up there, or are you seeing dog ticks, wood ticks?
I think they're mostly deer ticks. The deer population is huge in that area, and so I think that's what we're seeing. But I'm gonna be a little more scrutinizing and try to catch them next time, so we can positively identify them. But the permethrin is, I think it's called Sawyer. I think it's made by Sawyer, the one that I believe it's a ready to use product. And I treated my pants, my socks, my boots, all of that, and it seems to really help. And I use DEET with it, so on my skin. So that does seem to help when I take the time to actually do that. But um, my our daughter's boyfriend got alpha gal last year, and so it has been a real challenge. So we're hyper aware of that, and so it's tough. You really need to be on the lookout for that. And his did start with a fever and a rash for the alpha gal, and he also has other allergies, food allergies. So we think that we don't know, but we're just theorizing and wondering if he is even more sensitive. So
So that would have been a Lone Star tick, right? Um,
Yep.
Yeah,
and
we're not sure whether he got that in Michigan or in Indiana, but
Lone Star Tick, I don't. Let me double check, but I don't think Lone Star Tick has gotten up to Michigan.
oh, okay. So
Let me
yeah,
double check. Let me
I
double
know
check.
I know it's in southern Indiana because that's what we got tick bombed
well,
with.
that's where they are. So
Good thing you say that, Doug, because although historically they are supposed to be southern Indiana, recently I have had reports from people saying they are finding Lone Star Tick around here, so they're moving upwards.
Oh, great. More good news.
Yes.
And
Sorry, I've been full of good news today.
yeah, well, that's your job. John, just real quick follow-up on that permethrin treatment on the clothes. These products do work well. I mean, that permethrin is it's an insecticide. It's a pyrethroid or pyrethrin itself, and you treat your clothing and then you let it dry right before you wear it, and it
yeah,
creates this nice barrier, and it's a
I just
contact
hung
toxin.
it on our fence and on the sunshine and just let it dry. And before we go back up there again, I'm going to pick a couple different sets of pants and socks, and I treated socks, boots, pants. That's all. Um, but I've also heard you can treat, like, if you're going to camp, you can treat ground sheets that protect your tent. You can treat your tent and all that too, I'm assuming. But of course, you want to read the label, of
Right,
course.
that's right. We always say read the
Yeah,
label.
always read the label. But yeah,
I
that's what I've heard anyway. But
I think that's right, and I think you never. The thing is, don't ever when you get a client calling about using that as a topical, you never want to put those materials on your skin directly, right? That's only for clothing. It's not like DEET where you can apply it to your skin, right? It'd be like
yeah, it was
spraying
only
yourself
on
with
clothing,
insecticide.
and yeah, only on clothing, and just the outer part of the clothing is what I did. So
Lone Star Tick is in Michigan, mostly in the
Oh,
southern part. So yeah.
wow.
okay, thank you.
One more question from Ashley. She said, I know there's some regionality with how well certain actives, flea tick preventives work. When she lived in Illinois, she had to switch to Advantage from Frontline for fleas, for example. Oh yeah, not sure if the same applies to ticks. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, like, you haven't seen resistance, have you, develop in tick populations to these tick preventives?
I do not. I'm not sure of the topical or any of the preventative measures that we are talking about on the pets. So I can't talk about that. But what I can talk about is the chemicals that are used for spraying ticks themselves out in the habitats. So there are research happening to see if they are resistant to mostly pyrethroid products that are being used as sprays out in the residential or in other wooded areas. So I think in a couple of years we'll have more information.
And I think actually that fleas are notorious for developing resistance to uh, some of these insecticide products. So yeah, that's something that shifts pretty quickly.
The thing
Uh,
is, they evolve with us. We are basically playing a game of cat and mouse with these pests because we find something new that works on them, and they will give them a few years, and then they will develop resistance, and then we'll find another one, and then they will slowly catch up. And yeah, it's just I think it's the nature of the beast is that we play this game back and forth.
yeah, that's sort of the classic scenario.
Hmm.
So are there any other questions, either tick related now or beyond, since there are a number of entomologists on, well, let's see. Yeah, a number of entomologists on the on the call here. Any other entomological issues that you have on your mind right now that we can address for you? Nope, there is no such thing as a silly question. So, um,
I don't know. I got something funny though. Whenever I find a tick, then I feel like I got ticks crawling on me the whole entire time I'm in that situation. So I don't know if that's some sort of syndrome, but or if it's in my head.
No, I call it a phantom itch. It happens to, I think, the best of us. Even when I work here in the lab, I know I'm not out and about, and I work with ticks. Yeah, I get a sense like there's something crawling on me on my legs, and especially talk about lice, and then your scalp starts itching. So yeah, I just term them phantom itches.
uh, let's see. So I do, let's see, I do have a poll question here. Let's see, a poll. I want to go ahead and launch that. So please make sure you answer that poll question, just one question before you leave today. But I will go ahead and say that we are recording each of these brown bag sessions, and we have a YouTube site where we are posting these sessions for your reference later. I put that in at the top of the chat, and I will also be adding it to the all future announcements for these sessions. Next month, we will have Bob Bruner with us to talk about Asian jumping worms, something that's becoming a sort of a bit of a concern to gardeners in particular. So Bob has some good familiarity with those worms, those earthworms, and he's going to share with us some of his knowledge on those, talk about how to identify them, um, prevention and treatment for those nasty little earthworms that people are starting to see and are being spread probably with soil and other plant material. Um, are there any other questions before I wrap things up? Okay, well, let me thank Choki again for visiting with us today and sharing all this great information. Really appreciate it, Choki. And thank you all for joining us. I'll release another uh, calendar invite next month for our next session with Bob Bruner. And until then, stay tick free to the best of your abilities.
Yes.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.